Welcome to the Save Schizophrenic podcast, everyone. This is episode 40, titled Count Your Blessings Every Morning. I want to first open up and say thank you for everyone who's subscribed to my channel so far. We're at about 128 subscribers, I think. So if you're one of those 128 people, thank you. It means a lot to me. Also, for those who are commenting under my videos, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself, your struggles, what you're going through. I truly believe if we can open up to one another and share our struggles with each other so we can provide a little bit of wisdom and knowledge and support to each other, it makes that journey, that struggle seem a little bit less intimidating, a little bit less scary, which helps someone feel like they can overcome, that they have the strength to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when it's difficult. The more we can be vulnerable in front of each other, and the more we can just be honest with those obstacles that we face on a daily basis, I really think it's vital to us being able to grow individually as well as a community, as a group of people, whether that's your family unit, whether your group of friends, could be your church community, your mosque community, whether you're a part of a student association at a college, university, whatever it is. The more that we're able to open up and just be like, hey, I'm going through this, I'm having difficulty, and the more you can be honest with someone in that way, the better I really think we are as people, because we need to be more caring, more kind, and more compassionate towards each other for sure. Like mentioned, today's title, Count Your Blessings Every Morning. I'm gonna go through some examples for me that I have to kind of remind myself that these are examples for me that God has blessed me and allowed me to be places, meet people, and see things that not everyone gets to be able to experience. And the fact is, I'm an addict. I've struggled with substance abuse since high school. I'm schizophrenic. I've struggled with my illness of schizophrenia since college. My life has not been easy. It has not been easy at all. With my biological mother passing away, my biological dad sexually molesting me, between the ages of about 6 to 9, him dying, and then me being in foster care, being later adopted, and then just having difficulty processing trauma and why my dad did what he did and why God allowed my parents to pass away and die. And the fact is, I was so angry at God for a long time, a very long time. And it took a lot of reflection, a lot of acknowledgement and honesty about myself and the actions I've done, the bad things I've done, the sinful behavior that I've had in the past. And what really it came down to is me acknowledging that I'm sinful, that I'm a sinner, I'm imperfect, and most of the times that I hit rock bottom, most of the times that ended up with me struggling quite severely, a lot of that had to do with my decisions led me to that place. My decisions led me to that situation. And no one was at fault or to blame except for me, if I'm being honest. And I try to be as honest as I can with all of you. So it's it's very important, at least for me. It's important for me. um, it's important for me to be able every day in the morning. I try my best in the morning just to be able to be like, yeah, I've experienced this X, Y, and Z. I've struggled with this or that, but in my life, so many good things have happened. I've had so many positive experiences, so many times where I felt love from other people, that they loved me, they cared for me. Um, and so it's really about being able to remember and be honest that God has always been present in your life. God has always been aware, listening, watching, and really, more than likely, God has intervened in your life several times. It's just you either weren't aware, you weren't watching, or like I was for quite a bit of time, I was just stubborn and I didn't want to acknowledge what God was doing, because if I acknowledge what God was doing, that means it would mean that for me, if I acknowledge what he was doing, that, oh, he is paying attention. He does love me. He cares about me. He didn't abandon me. And I didn't want to speak those truths. I didn't want to think them. I didn't want to feel them. I did everything I could to ignore them. And I did that for quite a while in my life. And it did not get me anywhere good. Not at all. Not at all. So I hope today's video is helpful to you guys, and just shows you that no matter how hard life is, no matter how difficult it seems, that there are always bright moments, moments of love and kindness and compassion. There's always going to be moments to where you meet someone who just in a genuine way, just loves and cares about you, even though they might be a stranger, even though they might not know you at all. They just, they want to support you and help you. And they don't even know you. It's when that happens, it's an amazing feeling, because you know that God placed them and put them in your life for a reason. And it's probably to learn something about yourself, learn about something about other people, or even to show you, oh, maybe you should reflect on this own quality about yourself, because you need a little bit of improvement in that area. So it's, when that happens, it's a blessing. So um, yeah, I'm gonna go over a couple examples for me that I'm thankful that they happened, for sure. I wrote a couple examples down. This video is probably not going to be as long as other videos. I don't think it will be, not really long at all. I just, I wanted to share something positive with you guys, and something just happy and maybe funny to some people. Just bring a little bit of laughter and joy to people's lives in this video and tonight. So hopefully it does that for you. One of my first memories that, or blessings for me, um, happened in high school. Some people are probably going to say that this doesn't count. You were doing something, you were doing something that wasn't good. It wasn't beneficial to you. Um, it had to do with a drug. There's probably going to be a lot of people who are like, oh, that doesn't count. And that's fine if that's your opinion. We all have the right to believe what we want to believe. But for me, I know with all my heart that it might not have been a great choice, but it allowed me to have a place that I felt safe, secure. I was with someone who didn't judge me, who really just wanted me to smile, to be happy, to be myself. So It happened in high school. Um, I went to a Catholic high school, uh, and at my Catholic high school, we had mass that we had to go to sometimes confession, um, and then there was just some different kind of services we sometimes had to go to. Uh, and I remember any time that there was a church related activity or service that students were mandated, that it was mandatory for us to go, or even as an assembly, like when the students had to go to the gym for whatever reason, whether it was a talk by someone, a visitor, or the principal had something to share, whatever the case may be. What would always happen is a couple friends of mine would sneak into the performing arts theater where we perform stage plays. Um, and we had our secret spot to where we would hang out during those times, and teachers wouldn't know we were there. We were never caught, not once. And what we would do is we would at least one of my friends would bring a couple joints and we would smoke weed and get a little high. Looking back on it, it's, there was probably better things for us to do rather than to smoke weed and to get high. But for me, there was a lot more positives going on at that time. One, I was with some friends who accepted me the weird, for me being the weird kid at school that just didn't really belong to a certain clique or a certain group of people. I didn't really have, that table to sit at with students who accepted me. I just kind of was that just kid that didn't really fit in anywhere. But these friends of mine, they welcomed me in, and we shared a lot of the same hobbies, interests, whether it had to do with writing, poetry, literature, um, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, stuff like that. And when we were able to hang out like that and hide kind of in the theater area of the school, we we felt relaxed, like no one was judging us. That we we honestly just we felt safe in each other's presence. And for me, it meant a lot because I was going through a lot at home um, with my adopted parents. We just, didn't get along very well. I was going through a lot of trauma when it came to my childhood and the sexual abuse, my dad molesting me, and my schizophrenia was starting to present itself during that time. And this was one of the rare times to where I could escape, to where the trauma didn't eat me alive, and I didn't feel like my parents were judging me or that they were just going to send me to someone to talk to, like a therapist. I felt like these other kids, these other teenagers I was with, my friends, they understood what I was going through. And they didn't care that I was awkward or said just things without thinking about them. Or, I haven't even changed much now. I say things oftentimes that are just unhinged, but I felt like I belonged in that situation. So it was one of the first times for me that I consider a blessing. Um, I do. It might not be a blessing for a lot of people who hear it, but you had to be there. You know, you did. because those friends of mine who I don't know where they are now because I haven't been able to find them on Facebook or anything, but we were all going through something, whether it had to do with our parents, siblings, our own personal mental health problems. And a lot of times we were bullied by people, we were mistreated, and us, three, four kids, we were able to talk to each other about things that we couldn't tell anyone else. So it definitely was a blessing. Um, Another time in my life that I'm forever thankful for is when is when I studied abroad at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. Um, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University is located in Port Elizabeth, which is in South Africa. I studied there for about 6, 7 months, and it was amazing. It was. I met a few people there that I still think about today. You know, I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're doing. But all I can really do is pray that they're all right, that they're happy, that they're thriving. You know, Port Elizabeth was a place when I studied that my schizophrenia wasn't my schizophrenia during that time, it wasn't severe like 10 out of 10. Um, it wasn't that bad. On a scale like 0 being not like just not there and 10 being so severe hospital, my schizophrenia during the time I was in Port Elizabeth was probably about a 3 or 4. It was manageable without medication, without therapy. I was able to get through it on a daily basis, kind of distract myself, ignore the voices, ignore what I saw on a daily basis, even the paranoia and delusions. I was able to ignore a lot of that. In reality, check myself of, what is true, what isn't, what is more likely, what isn't likely, stuff like that. But Port Elizabeth was amazing. Being able to being able to walk along the beach every day. I lived maybe 5, 10 minutes away from the beach, and I could just sit there and just watch the sunset, sunrise, feel the cool air from the waves. It was amazing. And the people that I met were genuine, they were kind. They treated me very respectfully, very with love. And there's one person who I'll always remember. Her name was Tania. Um, she was half South African, and I believe the other half was Madagascar, or at least from Madagascar, her other side of the family. Um, she had this kind of curly, flowing brown hair, brown eyes, very. It was, I don't know, caramel complexion, maybe you could say. Um, it wasn't like Sudanese black. It wasn't. It wasn't like light skinned Somali. Um, it was more like a caramel complexion, and she was actually a little bit taller than me. I'm 5'10". I think she was about 5'11", maybe. Like she was just a little bit taller than me, slender, very petite, slender, very beautiful young lady, and I remember us meeting at a cafe. I was just sitting there on my computer doing some homework, and she asked if she could sit at my table. And from there, we just started chatting, starting to get to know each other. And after that day, we hung out every day. We were inseparable. I remember walking, walking along the beach, having a towel, sitting down, um, and we would go into the water and, splash around and sometimes go back to her place. And it was just that comfort of quiet companionship that I loved about her, that she didn't judge me. She didn't care about my schizophrenia or my substance abuse. She didn't care about my flaws, my weaknesses. We would just lay together on the couch and cherish each other's companionship and that love between each other. Even though we knew that I would be leaving after 6 months, we didn't let that stop us. We just really enjoyed our presence, each other's presence. And it was, for me, it was a blessing from God, because I was in a country that I was in a country that it was the first time me traveling overseas. I didn't know anyone. The people that I went on the study abroad program with, I really wasn't friends with. I didn't know them well. Um, when I was going to a university in another country, and there, within a couple weeks, I met Tania. She made my 6 months special, unique, something. She made my 6 months a time that I would always remember. And I know, and I know that's a blessing from God. For me to be able to look back on my past and be like, that was a good time. Yes, I've struggled. Yes, I've had really lows. I've hit rock bottom. I've had trials and tribulations, and life hasn't been easy. But during that time, there were so many positives, so many good memories. Like when we would have barbecues and grill outs, when her and I would go grocery shopping together, try new restaurants, where she would show me interesting places within Port Elizabeth and show me cool places to hang out and introduce me to other people. And I remember she introduced me to her group of friends, and it was I don't know how they talked me into it, but it ended up somehow that we straight ironed my hair, which was, even my hair during that time was out here. It was like 3-4 times as big in terms of a fro, or what I would call a Jew fro. Really, that's what it is, but um, that's how it was. And we straight ironed my hair. We straight ironed my hair, and dyed it black. I don't know why we did it, but we did it. It reminded me of Severus Snape from Harry Potter. That's really what it reminded me of. Um, but that's what we did. But there was a lot of good memories with her in South Africa, and I'm blessed to be able to have met her, for sure. The next memory that I can say I'm forever thankful for is when I lived in Thailand. And sorry guys, my stomach. I lived in a place called Suratani. It's spelled Surat Thani, Suratani, Thailand. I lived there. I taught English at a government high school, and it was an amazing time. At that time, I was living there with my then wife, who is now my ex-wife, but we were living there, and it was we lived in the countryside, and what I miss about that place is its countryside atmosphere environment where there wasn't a lot of people. It wasn't very populated. Um, most people knew each other. And oftentimes you would probably go to eat at the same place because there wasn't much options. But one thing I remember us doing is every day or every evening we would go to the food market. And what we would have to do is jump on our scooter and drive probably about 10 minutes down the road, and we would go to this food market. And and my favorite lady at that food market was an elderly Muslim lady who covered her hair and everything, and she sold hot wings. They are, even to this day, the best hot wings have the best hot wings I've ever ate. They were amazing. Like the taste, the flavor, the hotness, the spice, they were just delicious. But I just I remember her smile and her gentleness, and she didn't really speak much English, and so we weren't able to go back and forth as much, but she would always give me a discount on the hot wings, like, and soon enough, after I went to her enough times, after a couple weeks, she would always give me free hot wings, so I didn't even have to pay for them after a couple weeks because we just built up a friendship. And it was just, I remember that marketplace a lot. Just, you could find anything from fresh fish, fresh food, um, if grasshoppers are your thing, chocolate covered grasshoppers, whatever, like um, sweet candies, but that kind of had a bug in the middle, or like a cricket or something, or like chocolate covered ants, stuff like that. Um, like they had seafood, like I said, chicken, beef, pork. Um, they would often even had even at an area to where you could see them slaughtering chickens right there and then. Like it was wild, but it was a really cool experience for me because it was something new that I didn't experience before. And also, what I loved about Thailand as well, besides for the people, the food market, just the food overall was amazing. um, was the laid back sense of lifestyle to where even though I taught at a government school, it was still very laid back to where I'm sorry guys, my stomach. Even though I taught at a government school, there was still a laid back sense of culture to where there wasn't much there wasn't much lesson planning from any of the teachers, and most of the time lessons were just spontaneous, just spur of the moment, no planning, like I said. um, that particular school didn't really have a lot of technology, like no projectors, no smart boards. um, and so a lot of it you just had to think on the fly of games, songs, skits, role playing, stuff like that. So games you could do outside to where they had, an athletic field at least. They had an area outside that kids could sit at, tables, benches. Even at that school, they had a outside cafeteria to where they had different stalls and different types of food that you could buy. Um, and there was different food sellers even for the students to go to, which was really interesting to see. I've never seen that before. Um, Thailand was another experience for me that, despite me having a, despite me having the life I've had of, struggles with my schizophrenia illness and addiction and substance abuse, I was able to go to Thailand and live there and meet really amazing people. Another person that I remember from Thailand, his name was Brandon. I used to talk to him for a little bit, but we lived next to each other. We taught at the same school, and I would hang out with him quite a bit. I remember once me and Brandon went to this bar down the street from where we lived, and it was just me and him that night. We had a couple drinks, um, and of course, lady boys were there, and these lady boys kept flirting with us, hitting on us, trying to get us to buy them drinks, trying to get us to drink more, and they were trying to come back home with us. I mean, I'm not gonna say whether the lady boys were, cute or not. I don't even remember what they looked like at that. But I remember they just were trying so hard to come home with us, because, they were doing their job. They were doing whatever they could to make money from foreigners, um, from tourists. So I'm not going to judge that. I don't judge that at all. I mean, do what you can, make your money. Like, I don't know, girl power, like slay it, like slay king, slay queen, whatever you want to say. Like, I don't know, but I remember that. That was a funny experience. Just me and Brandon at this dive bar and having these lady boys around just flirting with us. It was a funny time. But that was another time in my life that I'm quite thankful for. And then there is a moment that I lived in Sana'a, Yemen. Sana'a, Sana apostrophe A, Sana'a, Yemen. I taught English there at a company called New Horizons. Wait, was it called New Horizons? I think so. I think so. Um, and there is a lot of people there that I met that I still think about today. One of the brothers was named Imad, Emad. One of the most kind, loving people I've ever met. His, sorry, his baby mama would, his baby mama taught English at the same company I did. But I remember me and Iman meeting at a hookah lounge, and we met and we just clicked right away. And soon after, I would go to his apartment usually, and we would smoke hookah and just relax and talk about life and listen to music and just hang out. Um, I also remember that an experience also in Sana'a, Yemen that I loved a lot was there was a cafe that I would go to every night. Now, the first 3 weeks, maybe month that I would go to this cafe and every evening, I would pay for my drinks, I would pay for my food, pizza, sandwich, whatever it was. I would pay for the hookah. I always sat in the same place, which was right where they were preparing the hookahs. And I sat right there by the window. And so the first month, they would often be like, "Hey, it's the American, okay, blah blah blah." I would, they would sit me down. I would pay for things. But for some reason, after like 3 4 weeks, they stopped taking my money to where I wouldn't have to pay. I wouldn't have to pay for food, drinks, the hookah. I would just go there, and the staff there and even the regulars there I became friends with, and we kind of had our own group of people soon after to where we had kind of like this VIP section, and we would listen to music till 1 a.m., 2 a.m., smoke hookah, and just enjoy the night. And there was 3 or 4 of us who were teachers, and so we would talk about school and students and papers and grading homework and stuff like that. And then the hookah lounge staff would join us after most of the people left, and it was a wonderful experience just feeling that sense of community with people that in the beginning I didn't share much with. Like, I didn't share much hobbies or similar interests, but after we got to know each other, we learned we do have interests, we do have hobbies together, we do have things that we enjoy in life that both of us just that make us both happy. Whether that has to do with sports, football, the debate always was Ronaldo versus Messi. Um, talking about which football team was the best. Um, uh, talking about which countries you would want to live in. During that time, Yemen was going through a civil war. And so there was just a lot of talk about if you could get out of this country, where would you go? Which country would you want to live in? Whether, some people would be like, I want to go to the US. Some people would be like, I want to go to Saudi Arabia. Some people were like, I want to go to Dubai. And that was sometimes we would talk about that. And then there was sometimes where we just wanted to get away from everything. So we would turn on music and, just start singing to music while smoking hookah. And you would have these, and it was a funny, for me, it was looking back at it now was probably a funny thing to see. If you walked into that lounge, you would see all these Yemeni guys, and there was a few Yemeni girls who would sit with us too. And so you would have all these Yemenis and just me, this one American, who you could tell probably was an American because I was, you know, whiter than everyone else, like a white guy in the middle, sitting in the middle of all these Yemeni looking brothers and sisters. And so, like, I stuck out like a sore thumb, but it's funny to look back at it now and be like, that probably looks strange to some people. And just seeing me and all my friends just getting along, laughing and talking and smoking together. And if you saw that, you probably would be like, how, why? Okay, I don't understand, but okay. Like, probably a lot of questions probably would come to your mind, but it was an amazing time. Um, one thing that I miss about that time too is I was always invited to people's families, to people's home to have dinner with their family, and then after having dinner with their family, we would be in the living room, sitting on the floor cushions, the floor couches, and they would bring in khat, and we would chew that for the rest of the night. Khat spelled Qat, at least that's how I've heard it, and we would chew that. Of course, hookah would be there, and we'd be nibbling on food and chewing khat and just enjoying the evening. Enjoying the evening, even though there was a civil war going on, and you could hear bombs dropping, drones dropping bombs, and AK-47s and rifles and just craziness. But it's still a blessing for me to think about that time of just meeting the people I did and how kind and generous they were, just accepting me as just a part of their friend group, their friendship. Having that loving friendship with people meant a lot during that time. It did for me. I think I have 2 more left. I think so. And then the next one I want to talk about is when I lived in Jakarta, Indonesia. I lived in Jakarta, Indonesia. During that time, I was with my wife, who's now my ex-wife, like I've mentioned before. My ex-wife's family is from Indonesia, originally from Surabaya, I believe. It's been a while since I've talked to her, but Surabaya is where I believe her family originally is from. But then And then they migrated or, moved to Jakarta, Indonesia, some of them, but we lived in Jakarta for a while. Um, Jakarta was an experience because I was quite, my schizophrenia during that time was quite severe. Um, the voices were really bad. What I was seeing was quite disturbing at some points. The paranoia, the delusion was all over, the delusions were all over the place. My disorganized thinking was impacting a lot of my behavior. And so, mm, and so there's some parts of Jakarta when I was there that I don't remember because of my episodes, my psychotic episodes. But there's some parts I do remember, and the parts that I remember are the blessings that I know that I know God made happen. Um, my ex-wife's family was very nice. Um, there was one individual who I called Ompit, O-M, and then P-I-T, Ompit. Um, he was her uncle, so he was her dad's brother, I believe, and he was one of the nicest, most gentle, kind men I've ever met in my life, to where he was extremely soft spoken, and he really cared about whether you were happy, whether you felt safe, whether you felt respected, just whether you were having a good time. Um, and so we would visit his family home, his home, where his kids were, his wife, um, his grandkids would be running all over the house, and we would visit. And every weekend, he would have food on the table, and we would have lunch and dinner together. Me and Ompit would, walk to the mosque every day, or, Saturday, Sundays, hand in hand, holding each other's hand, walking to the mosque. And he would ask how I'm doing, if there's anything he could do for me. You know, he, I remember him to this day just because of how, he treated me, how he treated with, because of how he treated me with so much love and compassion and respect. And I remember that I would be, sitting there eating, and he'd be talking about Prophet Muhammad or his companions, the wives of the Prophet, and he'd be talking about Islam and teaching me things. And even though I don't believe in Islam now, during that time, I felt honored. I felt this level of thanks because there was this elderly man who had a lot of knowledge about Islam, who has seen a lot, been through a lot, and he was willing to teach me and to give me a chance to learn. And so I just felt so thankful in those moments, to be around him and to just be in his presence. It was a good time. You know, Jakarta, Indonesia. It has its ups and downs. It has its good qualities and not so good qualities, like any city, anywhere in the world. But overall, if I could visit Jakarta again, I definitely would. There was The food is amazing. I love what's called nasi goreng. It's probably my favorite food there, nasi goreng. Or actually, there's another one. I think it's called rendang. Rendang is another one that I like a lot. But yeah, that was another time to where just God blessed me with so much. Um, I was struggling, yet I was able to count every day. Like, these are the good things that are happening, right? These are the good things that are happening in my life. These are how many people that love me, care about me, and are trying to help me on a daily basis. So I was thankful. I was. Um, the last memory of the last time that I know that God was blessing me when it comes to a person. Um, I've talked about this person before. I refer to them as Gremlin. You can see a picture of me and Gremlin on this post. I included the link of this WordPress blog in the description of this video. So if you click on that link, you'll see a picture of me and Gremlin together. She meant the world to me. She meant everything to me. Even right now, to this day, even though we're not together, even though I don't even know if we're considered friends, but you know, I love her unconditionally, and I love her because Jesus Christ teaches me to love people in the same way Jesus Christ loves me, and to forgive other people in the way Christ forgives me. So, because of that, I pray for Gremlin every morning, every evening. I only want her to be happy, to feel loved, and to, you know, be in a relationship and find someone who she can marry and have a family with. So I hope she does. But me and Gremlin, when we were together, it was a time to where God blessed me. He blessed me with a chance to be with someone who was kind, loving, compassionate, who to be with someone who cared about what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and she would ask, what are you thinking about? What are you hearing? What are the voices saying? What are you seeing? What kind of thoughts are you having, whether they're paranoia or delusions? What is your thinking like when it comes to disorganized thinking? She would ask me those questions, and to be with someone who was aware of your struggle, and to be with someone who was not afraid of asking those tough questions. Um, it was it made me feel important. It made me feel cared for when she did it. One of my favorite moments would be one of my favorite moments. One of my favorite moments would be when me and Gremlin would lay on the couch together. Her feet, where it would basically I would be laying this way, she would be laying this way, and our feet would kind of be on top of each other, our legs, um, and we'd just be laying on the couch, and we'd be able to look at each other, and look up, look each other in the eyes, smile, say I love you, and go back to what we were doing. And even though it sounds like a very simple exchange, even though it sounds like a very simple thing to do, it meant a lot to me because she made me feel safe, secure. I felt loved when I was in her presence, and just being with her on the couch, I felt like I belonged. It was right where I wanted to be. And so I'm thankful for that experience. I'm thankful for every day I was able to spend time with her and to be with her. And so that was another time that I know God, blessed me with experiences, with memories, with days that I can count in the morning, every morning, and be like, these are the good things that have happened in my life. These are the things that I'm thankful for. you know, and it really comes down to acknowledging, despite all of your battles, despite all of your trials, despite all of your tribulations, that God still has given you so much for you to be thankful for, um, and for you to acknowledge that God was present, He was listening, He cared, He loved me, and He was there. He was providing for me, He was sustaining me, He was doing everything He could to help me succeed and to persevere. And part of that is our effort as well, to where we need to put in the effort and energy on our part to be like, we're going to try our best, we're going to do what we can, and then we're also going to trust in God, trust in Christ, and follow Christ as well. So it's almost like a two-part For me, I think of it as a two-part step, a two-step process, to where I do what I can to my fullest potential, and I leave the rest up to God, of trusting in Him that He knows what is good for me. He knows what is best, and that whatever I receive, He knows exactly why I received it, what it's for, and how it's going to impact me, and I have to trust that He knows what is best, because He does. He knows what is best for me in my life. But those are some of the examples for me that were times in my life that I'm forever thankful for, that I feel blessed to have lived through. For the people that I've met, definitely. A couple Bible verses that I thought about when thinking of this topic. One was in Psalm chapter 126, which is verse 3, which says, "The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy." And then there's James chapter 1, verse 17, which says, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights." And it's so true. Every gift we receive is good and perfect, and sometimes we don't even realize what it's for, how it works, why we received it. And in those moments, you just have to trust God, because we are short sighted. Our understanding is not great sometimes. We often misunderstand things because sometimes we get very egotistical and we think this is why it's here. We know best. When it's like, we don't know best. God knows best for sure. We don't. And that's why it's important for us to trust in God. But every gift we receive is from above. All the money you earn, all the money you have in the bank is from God above, and God can take it away within a second if He wants to. Your nice house, your nice car, your nice clothes, the relationship you're in, the marriage you're in, everything you have is from God. And you have to be thankful because of that, and you have to thank God every day for those things. Because the truth is, it can be all taken away within a second, and soon enough you'll be like Job, to where you'll be wondering, what is happening? Why am I in such a low place? Why am I struggling so much? And you'll be asking God why if that situation ever comes. Mm. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to share with you some times in my life that I'm thankful for, despite me being, a addict, alcoholic, struggling with substance abuse and schizophrenia, and living with my illness. Life isn't easy, but life is worth it every step of the way. You might not see it in that moment because of whatever struggle you're going through, but you won't know what gifts you were meant to receive. You won't find out your purpose if you aren't willing to persevere, to have that courage and strength to be like, today sucks, what I'm feeling sucks, what I'm going through is terrible, it is and it's driving me crazy, it's making me feel this way, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. I'm going to trust in God. I'm going to follow Christ through this storm, because I know and I believe my purpose is greater, and the gifts I'm going to receive are beyond my comprehension, and I probably don't deserve them, but I'm willing to persevere because I know God loves me and God knows what's best for me. At least that's how I think about it, for sure. But anyways, I also want to say I'm sorry for coughing through this whole video. I think I'm getting sick. That's what it is. Probably a cold or something, but I apologize so much, guys. Please forgive me. I'm going to just end with like I always do, I love all of you so much. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what gender identity, what pronouns you use, what religion you practice. None of that matters to me. I love you with my whole heart and I want to see you happy. I want to see you succeed. I want you to know your life matters. It's precious. You are important. You are cared for. You are loved. And that God loves you, that Christ loves you. And one of the reasons why I'm never going to give up on you, one of the reasons why I'm always going to remind you that it's not too late to trust Christ, to trust God, and to follow Christ. It is not too late. All you have to do is, is pray, talk to God, and accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, and learn about Him, and start following Him as best as you can. And that means you might have to give up some of the things you're doing. That might mean you might have to change your lifestyle. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult because you're so used to doing one thing, or you're so used to living one way, but that way you're living very well could be sinful and could be the very thing leading you towards damnation. But it's because I love you so much that I'm not going to give up on you, and it's because I love you so much that I'm going to constantly remind you that salvation is possible and salvation is a gift that God wants to give you and that Christ wants you to receive. And that salvation is worth it. The kingdom of God that you're going to inherit if you're willing to go down that road of redemption, of forgiveness, of repentance, it's worth it, brothers and sisters. It is so worth it. But anyways, guys, I love you so much. Have a wonderful night. Have a good night. Peace and blessings upon you. I love you so much. Have a good night.